Okay, this is Tricia with Nex-Tech, and I wanted to welcome everybody to Tech Talk, our next installment of our webinar series. We're going to talk about some business phone systems and different versions of them, hosted PBX versus a phone system, and I'm going to stop talking and introduce Steve Riot and let him tell you all about it. Go ahead, Steve.
Great. Thank you, Tricia, and welcome everybody to our monthly Tech Talk. And today I'm super excited to have Kevin Carlene with us today. He is one of the senior guys here on the staff. And Kevin, I know that you have a pretty big resume of things you've been doing here for quite a while. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, Steve. I've been here since '93. I came to work as an outside plant tech. Did that for several years. Then I worked with Darren's group and put in PBXs and business systems and networks, and been in the central office probably 12, 13 years now already, and I've been working with those guys.
And so one of the things that's under your realm of responsibility is Nex-Tech's hosted PBX solution. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. We've put in probably a dozen plus now, up to probably 50 handsets and some small ones, 3 sets, and all in between.
So we got the right guy on the phone to help us through understanding what these systems are capable of, because you've worked with both sides, all forms really of business phone systems, whether it be from electronic systems back in the 80s all the way up to, IP and everything in between. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. We used to put in a lot of ComDial, and we worked on some AT&T partner stuff and all kinds of different sets.
All right, so that ought to be helpful in moving us forward. And one of the, first of all, when we talk about hosted phone systems, I know it's been referred to as a lot of different things when you talk about hosted phone systems, hosted VoIP, regular PBXs, and even hosted phone systems. We're going to talk a little bit about that specifically today. Have also been referred to as cloud offered, because they do sit in the Nex-Tech cloud in this particular case. And I put a real basic graphic up here on the screen that just kind of shows, how things are deployed comparatively. But realistically, from a customer view, there's not a lot of difference. The difference being mainly is instead of an office PBX, you'd have a router. Is there anything that's substantially different from a customer end, Kevin?
No, really, there's nothing that's different for the customer. Then there's actually added benefits that you're going to probably go through here in a little bit.
Okay. And so when we speak about the Nex-Tech hosted solution, somehow, we can deliver different solutions. And I know some of the things that we do here. So we have different architectures. And the first architecture that we're talking about, where we kind of deploy the phone service on a completely isolated network. And I think that's kind of been one of the ways that you prefer to deploy them. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's correct. It isolates the voice totally from the internet traffic that way.
And I know a lot of our customer concerns kind of, go around this. They've heard VoIP. And one of the things I want to dispel earlier here is, you've seen advertisements on TV of Magic Jack, I think, for $49 or $99, and, everything's for free. Those are completely different solutions. And specifically, they're different solutions because there's no real quality of service that are being delivered to you as a customer, which may be fine for your home phone service, which I would suggest may not even be fine for that. But in this particular deployment, Kevin, you're really delivering quality of service end-to-end. And how are you doing that, all the way from Nex-Tech?
Well, we have a session border controller that protects our switch from the outside traffic. And then from there we go across, generally, like say in Hayes, we'll build an Ethernet pipe all the way out to the ONT or the NIT of the business, and then bring in an Ethernet cable to our ADTRAN router, and then we tie all the phones essentially to that ADTRAN router. So it's a complete end-to-end deal.
And those are all Nex-Tech lines, or at least quality of service lines. So there's pretty much guaranteed and monitoring of all that. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct, Steve. We have a VQM server. It's a voice quality server that we purchased from Adtran, and all our hosted customers, there's a setting in there that we can set to go in and queue everybody's business groups, and we watch all the traffic and make sure that their quality of service is in check.
Gotcha. Now, I put 2 additional system architectures up here that we support. The one on the left is where the customer kind of manages an Ethernet switch, and then the one on the right is where Nex-Tech manages the Ethernet switch. And my understanding is, we'll help customers, kind of go through this process. But the reality of it is we've deployed pretty much all of these, if I remember. But the key being is that if, a customer has a larger network with an IT administrator that's capable of understanding a lot of the complexities involved with this, then an IT administrator is more than capable of administrating this. But if for whatever reason, maybe one of our customers does not have that capacity, we can even have a shared voice and data network, but we can help manage that quality of service. Do you have any thoughts on that, Kevin?
Yeah, we got our network operations group does a lot of our managing of the switches. They help us with all that stuff, and it's a lot better if our guys have access to that, because they keep good track of what's going on in that switch, and they have all the access profiles set up correctly.
Okay. And I'm not a real technical guy, so when you say a managed switch, I mean, what exactly does that mean? And what does it mean to me as a customer knowing that you're managing that for me?
Well, it means a lot to the customer. It means the hassle. They don't have the hassle of worrying about it anymore, and our guys just take care of it all.
Great. That sounds good. So talking about some of the values of hosted systems, I know one of the major values is if you have multiple offices, they can act like really one office where there's just, 2, 3, or 4-digit intercom dialing, kind of, everybody can forward voicemails, but, does that save long distance between my branches if I have them in different towns, and how does all that work, Kevin?
Yeah, it sure does. If we have, say, you have a business in Hayes and you have one in Russell or whatever that's still on our footprint of our switch, and it's not an AT&T town, say in Wichita or something, we can't, provide service there yet. But if it's local to all our traffic, we can do 4-digit dialing or 3-digit dialing across from, say, Russell to Hayes. You can watch the button mapping on your phone. If somebody goes off hook in Russell and you're in Hayes, you can actually see their phone go off hook in Russell. Transfer a call to Russell from Hayes just like you're sitting in the same building.
Okay. And then my understanding also is I know we've kind of, my diagram here, it shows multiple handsets and multiple computers and things like that, but even if you had, say, one phone in, say, a remote, shed or something to that effect, we can tie those into the hosted solution, and they can still have some of the functionality. Is that right?
Sure. If it was like a municipality or something that had a workshop north of town or whatever, we can tie that in with a plain old 500 set if we need to, just an old telephone, or we can put a hosted phone out there too.
Okay, great. And then, I know one of the additional features is direct inward dial, and I put the big fancy definition as the online dictionary gave it. But one of the real values that I saw in hosted was if we had smaller customers, meaning maybe they only had 3 or 4 or 5 handsets, they could still have a dedicated number to really everybody in that business. And what that really meant was, and I know that's how it impacted me, because I have a direct inward dial. In fact, the number that I listed at the beginning of this presentation, and it will be at the end of the presentation, is my direct inward dial. And so some of the value, again, being is, my wife wants to call me and says, hey, on the way home, you pick up a gallon of milk. Instead of dialing that front desk number and having somebody route that call to me, which takes of course, man hours and things to, people to answer that phone, and, it reduces that traffic. That my wife just called me directly at my desk, nobody else is involved, and, I can give maybe different customers that number, or anybody that I want to just ring my desk, direct call. So, and that's included with hosted, is that right? And how does that work, Kevin? I mean, there's some additional features that come with that direct inward dial?
Yeah, it's like you said, it's kind of set up so the receptionist doesn't get bombarded with phone calls all day long that are directed to a certain individual, or if you, like you say, a sales guy wants his people to call him directly, they don't have to go through Nex-Tech front desk to get a hold of them. Saves a lot of phone calls to the front desk.
Okay. And then the additional value that also is that, I mean, it's not directly related to direct inward dial, but my understanding is, and I think I use it here, is I can also have this find me, so it can call my cell phone, my home phone, or a whole list of numbers to come find me. Is that right? And does that works with direct inward dial and with routed calls, or is that only limited to one set of that?
No, we can set it up so if your main line, you want it to ring several phones, or you want it to ring 3 desk phones and then go to a cell phone, we can do that. And we can also set it up so if you're at your desk, you want it to find you, follow you around, it'll do the same thing. We can route it to your cell phone or route it to your home at night, anything like that. It's pretty much, if you can dream it up, it can pretty much be done.
So a great example of that is, of course, I'm in sales, Kevin, and, we have a bunch of folks here in sales here at Nex-Tech. If you call the particular number, we can have it kind of route from each salesperson until somebody picked up the phone. Is that how that would work?
Sure. You could route it. You could ring all of their phones at one time. You could ring half of them at one time. You can ring them in a certain order. It doesn't matter, and it's all it's all web-based, so you can go in and change it if you want. If a salesman's gone this week, you can take him out of the list, take him clear out of the list, and put him back in next week.
Perfect. And then, the next thing that I found to be amazing, first of all, this is a picture of one of our recommended phones that we have for this solution. In fact, I'm looking at my actual phone, and I'm looking at the screen, and they're really the same. Now, one of the things is, Kevin, this is a picture out of my web interface where I can program the buttons on my phone, right? So this is really easy for end users to go ahead and change buttons and do different things, right?
Sure. Yeah, if you wanted to take that voicemail button, if you wanted to make it as a busy line button, you can make it that, or you can make it an intercom button or a speed dial button, anything you want to. I mean, you can a do not disturb button. There's tons of different things you can put underneath those things. Then you just reboot the phone when you're done, and it'll download the new configuration, and it'll fill in all the blanks.
And you had an example, I think we were talking about it yesterday, of a pretty large company here in town that I think he's the CFO of the company. He actually administers this for his whole company. So he could go in and change all of his employees' mappings. If an employee left, he could change the name. He can do all that himself, and it was really simple. I pretty well understood that. Does that come with all of these deployments? And I guess that's my first question. The second question is, if one of our customers doesn't really want to mess with that, is that something that you will help them with?
Sure. We set it all up for him and walk him through all the steps and he can also get in and change, his routing of the way the main line coming in is handled. If he wants it to ring 3 different people's phones, he can change it himself, and he does do a lot of that himself. And he sets up the buttons for the intercoms and all that good stuff. And he takes complete care of it, or if he doesn't want to do it, he can call us. We take care of it.
And he's not a IT administrator by any means. He's he's running a company, and it's just so easy that he can manage it.
Yeah, he's He's the business leader of the company now.
Okay. So that's a really nice graphical interface, and I know that a lot of the other phone systems we have very similar features like that, but it's definitely nice to have that web interface for all or any of them. And some of the additional features, I know that message forward to email, meaning that we can get faxes that come in and go straight to email. I know that I love that feature. You know, we get customers who still fax. I know faxing is kind of a dying breed, but it's sure nice to keep those in email because then I can just save them as a file. Are you seeing a lot of customers start to move this way?
Yeah, we have a lot of them that are doing the multiple email addresses, things like that. We can set it up so if you're gone, and your business gets a call that night, and it goes into your voicemail, it'll email a copy to each one of the people that we set up, and it'll leave a copy in your voicemail box, so your light will be flashing, or it can also delete it, and so you never ever have to go in and delete messages or even retrieve them. Just get a emailed copy.
Excellent. And I know that that's one of those features that I never thought was that big a deal until I realized that I could just go into my email file and pull them up either with my mobile phone or with, you know, my web interface to my email, or of course, you know, here at the office. That way, if there was an order coming in for our sales group, we could just process it immediately. Paging, you know, I know VoIP and paging there's been a lot of concerns we've had in the past. Tell me about how that works, and can you give customers paging?
Sure. We can set up multiple page groups, and what we set up is through a multicast address, and then the phones themselves become members of that address, and they're always listening for that address when it comes across. When somebody makes a page, it goes out on a multicast address, and those phones listen, and it just comes over to speaker. And we also set up some older paging systems with an ATA that you can put a DID number against it. So essentially, if you wanted to make a broadcast page from Japan, you could call that phone number and still access the paging system.
Okay. Now, ATA, I've heard you mention that. That's really just kind of a fancy term for turning an IP connection into a regular old analog connection. Is that right?
That's correct. It's an analog telephone adapter is what it's called. And it just,
you there?
Yeah, it just turns the phone into an plain old telephone.
Okay, and so what that means is that if I had a need for kind of a dumb old cordless phone in a warehouse or something like that, or even a high-powered cordless phone that would go longer, I could just use, if I already have one, I could use an existing analog cordless phone, or I could use something like that and just plug them right into this device.
That's correct.
Now, there's some limitations of those, if I understand. Quite as enrich as an IP handset and some of those things. What other things do you see that you lose when you go to that analog set?
Yeah, it just becomes a plain old telephone, just like the one at your house is. But I mean, if you can still transfer calls with it. If you get a call and you got a cordless, you can still do a hook flash and transfer calls. You can intercom, you know, just like you normally would if you want to intercom somebody at the front desk. You can still intercom. They can intercom you, just like a normal call.
So it really gives me everything I'd probably want in a warehouse setting. But of course, the nice thing is that if I wanted to go to Walmart and buy a $30, $50 cordless phone, because it's out in the warehouse, I could get away with that too. Yeah.
Right, and they can still transfer calls to you just like they normally would.
Gotcha. Excellent. So auto attendant is what we're talking about here. And I know we have two different varieties of auto attendant, but for me, the easy auto attendant is just the simple deployment of, you know, if I want to talk to, you know, if I have an after hours, you know, it's after 5 o'clock, my business call, they can answer and say, thank you for calling. You know, our business hours are from 8 to 5. You know, if you need an emergency, press 1 and it'll do something. Is that how the easy auto attendant works?
Sure. And do you make your own recording, set it up, and then when they press 1, they go to whatever extension you want or a group of extensions. If, like say if it's sales and it rings 3 phones, we make it so it rings 3 phones. We put a dummy extension in there where it'll transfer to that, and then it'll automatically ring a group of phones. We can transfer it to voicemail, and transfer it to a cell phone, all kinds of different things like that, and many different levels. You can build these things for a long ways.
Now, and so when you talk about building it for a long way, that's where we kind of get into this premium auto attendant. And let's face it, we're not talking about a ton of money here. I think we're talking like, pretty minimal cost to go up to this. But this is the kind of thing, if I'm correct, where you can, press 1 if you want to talk to sales, and then it goes there, and then you could say press 2 to talk to Steve Riot, press 3 to talk to so-and-so, or if you have an order problem or whatever, you can do those multi-tier. Is that how that works?
Yeah, that's correct. It works really nice for that.
Now, I know that I did not put a picture of it out here, but yesterday you showed me where it had kind of a graphical representation of what that looked like, so that it's easy for customers to kind of see if a customer pushed 1, here's where it's going to go, and here's their 3 options. Is that included with the premium auto attendant also?
Yeah, it is. And it also gives you the amount of times that they have pushed 1 or pushed 2 or went to sales, or how many times the main auto attendant has been hit.
Oh, excellent. So I can see how many times people pushed 1,
Right.
say for over a weekend or something like that. That way I can see what my rough call volume was.
Exactly.
Okay. And reports, we were kind of talking, you just mentioned that's kind of a good segue to this. So what kind of reports or what kind of things can I get? And then, of course, if let's just say that I was concerned about call quality or dropped calls, can you give me reports on that kind of thing?
Yes, I can print out just exactly what it shows on that screen, the ups and downs, and if they said they were having a lot of call problems to a certain phone, or if it was to the whole business group, this is where we go to look at that, and that's a graphical picture that comes right out of the Metaswitch.
Okay, and that's built into all the systems.
Right.
Okay. And I know, we kind of mentioned some of the web interfaces. I know this is kind of a picture of what it looks like on my computer, because it, brings up this little pop-up on my, screen, my computer screen. It says who's calling. But also, there's a lot of different things that allows me to kind of identify my calls. My understanding is, even with this, is that I could route even based on telephone number. So, for example, my wife's not listening, so I can definitely say this, but if my wife was calling, say between the hours of 8 and noon, I could have her automatically routed into voicemail. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can do that, and you can also add, like on the screen where you see it says send to voicemail, you can also add, I think it's just 4 different ones. So if, like, say you, for instance, had 3 other sales guys in your group, and you knew it was a call that needed to get to one of those guys, and you were on another call, you could just send it straight over to them.
Excellent. So that would be very helpful. And I know that we've just scratched the surface of the features because they're so rich. And these are just some of the examples. We can definitely give customers a full demo of all the things. I know that all the sales reps have one of these phones in their desk, and all of them have access to the web console, and we can definitely show all of that. And here's another look at that dashboard that we were talking about earlier. But I know that integrating my contacts into my phone is pretty important to me. So does this work with Outlook, and how exactly does that work?
Yeah, it works with Outlook. You just import them, and your contacts are on there, and then you can hold your mouse over the top of, like, say, where it says telephone numbers. You hold your mouse over there and you click it, and it'll ask you if you want to dial it. You click to dial, and it'll ring your phone. You pick it up, and then it'll ring that person. We've got several people that don't even dial with their phones anymore.
and I would be one of them. And, you know, I put this last slide in here. I don't expect anybody to be able to read all of this stuff, but, you know, there's just tons of feature sets that are built into this. Again, we really just only touched the surface of what is capable with the system. And I guess what we ask our, you know, or suggest for our customers is if you have any interest in, you know, looking at your phone system, your phone service, you know, give us a call here at Nex-Tech, and we can, you know, get folks like Kevin involved to, you know, help us configure a phone system for your business. And if hosted voice isn't right, you know, we can definitely converge them with hosted and standard PBX functions. We can do all kinds of different features here at Nex-Tech. We're not limited to just one solution. And the best part of it from a customer view is the fact that we have the ability of looking at all different brands, all different manufacturers. We've got folks on staff like Kevin that's probably worked on just about every brand that's out there, and help you as a customer understand what things you could be doing within your business and how you could be more productive and maybe even save some man hours on answering phones and things like that through advanced communication. Kevin, did you have anything that we missed on that was key that I glossed over?
No, I think you pretty much covered it, Steve. Did a good job.
Okay. And so I put our contact information right here. And I guess one of the things that I challenge everybody to do is just, you know, give me a call, or if you want to talk to somebody more technical like Kevin, I can definitely get you connected with Kevin. He's a pretty busy guy. I really thank him for his half an hour through this process. But, you know, one of the key things that I want everybody to come away with is you would be amazed on how low cost phone systems are today. And we can kind of come in, and we have the experts here at Nex-Tech to review your phone bill, review, you know, if you have multiple offices, if we could tie those offices together with different phone services, how you can save different long-distance costs. We can have the ability to bundle different things in with your phone service. So we can do end-to-end, everything from that dial tone all the way to the paging to the cordless phones. We have the ability to do all of that. And we definitely challenge you to give us a call. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Tricia. That way, if she has any questions for us, they can let us know. But before I totally let Tricia take over, I see that we have one question for Kevin, and that question is, how does this hosted service compare to VoIP that they have at their house? Kevin, can you tell us kind of the differences between those two services?
Sure. The VoIP at your house is running directly over your internet connection. So you would essentially have an ATA out at your house, and you have your DSL router, and you have the ATA plugged into your DSL router. And so if you're doing a big download, you're using most of the bandwidth, and you don't have a lot of bandwidth left for your talk path. But in the hosted world, where we're doing the whole pipe to the premise, everything is pretty much controlled. So you don't have the choppy voice, things like that go on with an ATA at the house.
And then there's a follow-up question with that on Kevin is, so does the hosted voice take away from their customers' bandwidth at their business?
No, we bring in a whole nother pipe, so to speak. So your internet, generally, we have had a couple customers that have mixed internet and voice, and we prioritize the voice, so it takes the bandwidth it needs and leaves the bandwidth for the internet. But most cases we just bring in a separate pipe, and it's only the hosted voice that goes out on it.
All right, Tricia, I'm turning it over to you now.
Okay, thank you. I realized later on that I hadn't told everybody the questions was on the bottom right. However, I posted a little message in your chat, so if you have any questions, go ahead and type them there. I do have one question submitted by Rod. Would we provide a switch, or is that provided by Nex-Tech? If so, we are mainly ruling out having a call manager on site. That was a question. I'm sorry, I didn't read that correctly.
Kevin, I'm going to let you answer that one.
Sure.
I'll get it one more time. I'm sorry. Would we provide a switch, or is that provided by Nex-Tech? If so, we are mainly ruling out having a call manager on site.
Right. We provide the switch. It's an Attendant router. The reason we went with it was because it does the voice quality monitoring, and we bought a VQM server that reports all the stats from the Attendant router on site to our server in the central office. So we monitor everything that way.
And I was going to clarify there that the router that we provide also provides switch ports. So depending on the scale of the system, meaning the number of handsets, a lot of times we can fit all of the handsets to that core router, which again provides PoE, which we didn't really talk about, but the PoE is battery backed up. That way, if the power glitches, handsets don't drop calls. It is definitely engineered thoroughly, and Kevin could probably give us all the real specific details of how that works, but if it's a larger scale system, we have to do PoE switches in addition. And again, looking at the architecture slide that we had, those switches could be the customer switches, or they can be Nex-Tech switches.
That's correct.
Right. If anybody has any follow-up questions either to that one or additional, we'll be, like I said, or Steve has his contact information up, or you can sure submit us. Still, I have a little bit more to tell you about. Like on July 25th, we're having our fastest 16 minutes in technology webinar. Yes, it's only 16 minutes long, and this topic is going to be the latest hardware gadgets, and you can go to our website at nextech.com/free webinar and sign up for that one. And we also have our next Tech Talk out there as well that you can sign up for already, and that's going to be on hosted exchange email. I also want to remind everybody that this is being recorded and is going to be on the website in our archive section under the webinars. So if you want to review it, show somebody else it, let them watch it. That's a great way for you to keep it with you all the time. And we also have, I'm thinking most of you probably already get our e-newsletter, but at nextech.com/e-news, we have our archived e-newsletters out there now as well, where you can read past articles on everything, and that will be continuing throughout the rest of the year. I don't have any more questions submitted. Steve, Kevin, do you have anything else?
No, I don't.
And I just want to thank Kevin for his time, because I know he's a super busy guy managing all this process for us. And thank you, Kevin. And again, give me a call, and we'll take care of it.
I'm sorry, Steve. We do have one more question that just popped up. Do you have a map of regions that you can provide SAP service, or can you work with other telcos?
We haven't worked with any other telcos as far as cross-traffic, if that's what you're implying. But Steve can get you a map of our towns that we do provide service to.
And just from my sales process, the way that works is we can pre-qualify locations based on you know, what capabilities each site has, even within the Nex-Tech towns. But if you're a Nex-Tech rural telephone customer, you pretty well, we probably can cover that, but no guarantees. But definitely get coverage in those areas.
Sure, and we can look at each one of those, you know, individually. That's not a problem.
Okay, great. I don't have any more questions once again on the screen, so I want to thank everybody for taking some time out of their day and listening to us, and hope to see you on future webinars. Thank you so much.